What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Panthers Nation Network here at Locker Room Charlotte, your number one place to get all of the merchandise to now start supporting another football team.
Hey, like at this point, bro, like I mean, they got it all. That's the great thing about this place. They have everything. You see the Lions get back here with the Barry Sanders jersey.
That's
You can't.
clean.
You really can't miss out on the classes that they got up in here. You look at some of the you got the Denver Orange Crush. But you got it all.
We got everything around here. It's crazy. And now, also, they've been rubbing it in our faces. They put out a video on social every week of the winners of the week. So they just show you all the merchandise they have of the teams that are actually doing well. Panthers haven't been in one post at all, which is just insult to injury. But at least we know that they have, obviously, what we're wearing here is, of course, all here from Locker Room Charlotte. So if you're in some mid-season depression already, you need to come out. Make sure you do so. It's a great place. They keep adding new stuff each and every week. You see this new rack behind us. And I was looking at the Lions stuff, and I was like, didn't we already put that stuff up there?
I feel like we did at some point.
We did, because of the preseason game. Because the preseason
It's
game.
right.
Which you would think, hopefully, we'll learn something by now from that game that we can take into this week, but we'll leave that later. First, we're going to start off with the Vikings. I don't know why we can't play the Vikings in a normal fashion, in a normal way, but I've just continued. Now, my Vikings animosity is continuing to grow.
Animosity for who? Because, our defense gives us touchdowns. Our offense doesn't want to give us anything.
No matter who's there.
So, I don't even know who to be mad at this point. I guess shout out to Sam Franklin, though. Definitely shout out to him for going from being a special teams guy, getting his opportunity, making the most of it. I got to show appreciation for that. Anybody that makes plays for us today, currently, I will show appreciation to you because there's not much really happening positive for us right now.
JB, you got any shout-outs?
I don't really have a shout out. I just have a lot of call outs. We looked like we've been playing in the JV varsity game since last season, and nothing has seemed to change. I will say that over the past 2 years that I've seen us play the Vikings, we typically play down to the Vikings, and we did that yet again this past Sunday, along with the stale play calling of our number one coach, Mr. Old Man Frank Wright.
Yeah, look for all these different conspiracy theories saying that he's trying to do this or he's trying to do one way or that Bryce is telling these plays. Anyone could read these plays. Literally anyone could read these plays, and we keep talking. We made jokes about it, and in the Carolinas, we're used to this. We had it for 5 or 6 years in South Carolina, where every play was a halfback read, and now it's somehow just translated into the Panthers, and it's really, really, I don't want to say confusing because we saw this kind of happen in Indianapolis. It was part of the reason why he started to get the door, and get kicked out the door. But we figured with the minds around him that it was going to be a little bit more. And when you put a young quarterback, I was okay with it in Indianapolis when it's Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan. There's only so much they can do at that point in time in their careers. But you've brought this kid in, and whether or not he wanted C.J. Stroud, which I don't necessarily believe,
Right.
I don't understand why they are continuing to do this to him.
I don't understand either. We were told during the preseason that, hey, what we're running right now is vanilla. But I dare anybody to pull up some preseason clips and pull up the regular season clips and show me the difference between what we're seeing offensively. We're not seeing the creativity that he spoke about in his opening presser when he first got hired on. I'm not seeing the explosiveness or any of that. So I'm wondering where's the disconnect between him and Bryce. There has to be a disconnect in what Bryce wants to do and what they feel like he's capable of doing. And I can't fathom that you took a guy number one overall and you think the best course of action for him to complete passes is with screen passes. And I understand it to an extent because the run game may have been struggling. Your offensive line's a bit, is quite a bit banged up. But it's getting to a point where I'm like, bro, do you not trust him at all to do the things that Andy Dalton did the week before? This was another porous defense I thought you would have had a chance to take advantage of what they lacked in the back end, and you still didn't do it. I'm still not seeing anything from him in Chark. I'm not seeing anything from him and Hayden Hurst, who I thought popped up for us well in week one. Haven't seen him really show up since then. So it's like where is the disconnect in between what he wants to do and what Bryce is capable of? I think Bryce is very much capable of doing these things, and if not, we need to see it now. What's the point of hiding it? It still feels like we're playing a preseason style of football where we're trying to protect him from himself.
Yeah.
There's an obvious disconnect that you can see, and I wouldn't even put it to Bryce to Frank. I think there's a disconnect between Thomas Brown and Frank. If they're sitting in the same room during the week putting together this game plan, we're not seeing that translate when Frank is calling the plays, the cadence in which he's calling the plays, not knowing the players that's in the game to call the play, making a play for a specific player that is not in the game, but you can't translate that play to another player. There's a huge disconnect between Frank Wright and Thomas Brown. This is something that we're seeing come to fruition, let alone letting Bryce play the game that he knows how to play. You cannot protect this man from being who he is. And naturally, you can see that he's very much uncomfortable in the system that we're running. He doesn't have confidence. He doesn't have the panache that quarterback kind of flavor to him. He's really kind of second guessing his reads, second guessing how he's playing. And I think that has a lot to do with the disconnect of what you're talking about in the room to what we're translating to on the field. And for me, I think what I've really come to just understand and just kind of, I hate to say that I'm going to have to deal with this year, is we're going to have to let Frank Wright hang himself. And I do mean that almost literally. We're going to have to put him in the same sort of clamps that Indianapolis Colts did and let him continue to run us in the ground until it's too much, too late, and then we have to figure out a new way around it.
Yeah, I mean, with Bryce Young especially, his whole shtick is this shifty gunslinger. He's going to make it happen, this backyard football style play that we've seen. And it wasn't just because, this Alabama offense, wasn't as explosive as it has been. He had to facilitate a lot more of it. So I don't understand where that disconnect, like what they thought he was going to be bringing to the table. Like that, if you wanted the guy who was going to be that kind of just fit you in a system, well, C.J. Stroud was your system player. We see what he's doing in Houston already. Just kind of, it's not like they have insanely better weapons than we have here in Carolina. Tank Dell is obviously proven to be, a steal at the spot where he was drafted, and that looks like it's going to come back to bite, a lot of us in the what if the quarterback and receiver taken directly after you took a quarterback and wide receiver are continuing to perform this way and without even guys like Mechie, joining the fray. But I think when you talk about the disconnect, and especially between Thomas Brown and Frank Reich, I think it spreads throughout the entire offensive coaching staff, which is even more concerning because the whole reason Frank got the job, from what we understand, is because of the coaching staff he put together. But I'm looking at all the strengths that all of these guys that he brought in were supposed to possess. Sean Jefferson, you were supposed to be this guy that was able to facilitate great route running, great skills, from a mechanic standpoint. We're not breaking off the ball. We're not getting separation. We can't catch worth a damn. And maybe it's because they don't get thrown to it all that they forgot what a football hitting their hands feels like. But, there was 3 or 4 times from guys like you're talking about in Money in the Bank, and when we talk off the camera, TMJ, come on now. You've been begging for touches, and this is what you do? Or Ian Thomas in the red zone with a chance to take the lead, and that's what you do? And so then for me, if you even keep going, Campbell was supposed to be the solid guy, the guy we knew was going to be consistent. Offensive line, Bryce is having to run around like crazy. I can't put that fumble on him because he's got Danielle Hunter. He's got, a guy we've known, and we were so upset that we didn't get him on our team because you saw the touchdown. He was in the perfect place for it.
Right.
And then even past that, they've got the other guy, Richardson? And then, or not Richardson, I can't remember the name of the other. Their front four is pretty damn good.
Yeah, front four is good.
And so the offensive line is inconsistent and it's not connecting. And then if you look at even, Josh McCown, if he's been brought in to help Bryce Young transition into the NFL and be this kind of quarterback, either he is not preparing Bryce well enough or he's not advocating for Bryce well enough when it comes to talking to Thomas and Frank.
And I think it's to Jason's point earlier. There has to be a disconnect in the coaching room, more so than anything else, because from what we thought, like you talked about Sean Jefferson, we'll go to Thomas Brown. Look at what they did offensively in LA. I would think you would want the guy that's a direct descendant of that to come in and bring that same style of offense. We're not even seeing that. We're not seeing nearly the amount of plays to set up the receivers to win. You look at the Rams offense. One thing they do well is whoever their number one guy is, they figure out ways to get that guy going early and often, and they figure out how to distribute the ball as well. And you have the quarterback that's perfect for that. What other quarterback would be better for that West Coast style, that new version of the West Coast style, than Bryce Young, who is a guy that was known for facilitating in college, even when he didn't have the greatest of weapons his last year at Alabama, still found a way to get the job done. I am looking at DJ Chark, and I'm saying, at what point you were supposed to be the semblance of the number one that we were supposed to have when we moved on from DJ Moore. He was supposed to be that guy that had the explosive ability, the vertical ability, and all of that. I haven't seen it from him. And if he's still coming off of that hamstring injury and he's still not 100%, then don't play. But at this point, bro, you're hindering us by not being any sort of threat when you're out there on the field.
Yeah, I'm more along the lines of the personnel part of that as well. We talk about the coaching, but Chuba Hubbard's performing better than Miles Sanders. I don't know why he's not getting the ball. LaVisca hasn't even touched the ball. And even in that red zone play that you talked about, Jack, when we were throwing it to Ian Thomas, I have no idea why we didn't put LaVisca Chenault through the hole on a screen pass, something of that nature, or end around, or something of that nature. I don't understand why we're not seeing that. To everybody's point that we've made from preseason till now, we are the most predictable football team in the NFL. Anybody can come in and play us however they want to play us because they know what we're going to call. We're either going to call 19 pass plays and 2 run plays, or we're going to call 19 run plays and 2 pass plays, and none of them are going to be past 10 yards down the field. I mean, Chuba Hubbard, to me, is more explosive out of the backfield. I think he needs to get more touches, if you're asking me. I think LaVisca Chenault can really play more downs and play multiple roles, whether as a fullback, a Cordero Patterson type of a player, put him in an end around, especially in the red zone where we are obviously missing the mark. So there's so much blame to go around here. Hayden Hurst should be frustrated. He has not touched the ball nearly enough times. Why would you throw it to Ian Thomas? This man ain't had hands since he came into the league. He is a blocking tight end. You got 5 tight ends. Pick one. Okay, we don't have time to sit here and try to see what Ian Thomas is going to become as a passer. I mean, as a catcher. He's not that type of a player. I don't know what Frank is seeing on film. I don't know what they're seeing in practice. But the translation of this powerhouse, multifaceted offense has turned into a one-dimensional trick pony. And none of the tricks are coming to fruition. We are absolutely horrendous on the offensive side of the ball. There's nothing else left to be said other than either Wright needs to hand over the reins because he's already admitting that he doesn't even know when certain players are out of the game that he's calling plays for. So there's a huge disconnect. I mean, there's just so much that we could go into with that.
And you speak to that point of him wanting to play powerhouse football. I guess my biggest question with that would be, well, why did you get rid of the powerhouse back? Why wasn't the powerhouse back re-signed and brought back into the building? It's crazy because I forgot about this. He definitely mentioned Deontay Foreman's name in his opening presser when he got hired. He was mentioned, and that's the crazy part that when they didn't, I think that's why. It's crazy because how much time changes and you forget some of these things. That's why when we didn't re-sign him, I think everybody was so surprised. We were surprised as well. Like, well, wait, you just mentioned him. You want to run a power system. We all felt like we should be a run first team right now, especially not with trading away DJ Moore. We thought, hey, go heavy run. That's what we did last year. That's how we figured out how to win games at the end of last year. Do the same thing this year and bring him along as a passer and bring some weapons along with him as time goes by, and we'll be fine. But you went away from that. You got Miles Sanders, who is he's a complimentary back.
Yes.
That's no knock to him, but his entire career has been him being a compliment. He hasn't been a 1,000-yard rusher until last year for a reason. And even then, he was still a compliment to Jalen Hurts as a runner. And first of all, I don't know if anybody knows this, running backs benefit greatly from playing with quarterbacks like a Jalen Hurts, like a Cam. It all opens up. So Chuba, to me, to this point, shout out to him for improving each and every year, becoming more physical, becoming great after contact. Contact balance is out of this world now. He needs to be the guy getting the majority of touches. There really is no question. It just seems to work better when he's in the game. I can't explain it, but that's what's happening.
I'm not one to brag about, my insight in the game, but I seem to recall someone saying this about Chuba well into his rookie season. And it was the only reason I was okay with getting rid of McCaffrey was because, all right, that gives Chuba the ability to fill in. We said from the longest time, right, McCaffrey's unhealthy, put Chuba in. He can do the same kind of thing, obviously not as well as McCaffrey, but in what we need and what we're paying him, perfect. And that's what we were always confused about with Deontay Foreman. You figured you had your 1-2 punch. McCaffrey's gone, that's fine. Bring back your smash and dash, your Chris Johnson, your Lendell White. Have that up, especially when you have a rookie quarterback and you have new offensive weapons. It gives you that safety net because this does not look like a Deuce Staley running back group. Mm-hmm. It doesn't in the way that they're used, in the way that they're able to get off the ball. And that's what's annoying about, you talk about Miles Sanders. I mean, he was a complimentary back, not even to Jalen Hurts. But there's a reason Swift has a starting job in a different city right now and coming into here because he had to come in to fill the role that they didn't have for him. There's a reason that these guys have been spread out across the area from that Eagles kind of 4 horsemen, 3 horsemen, running back room. That's why they were dispersed, because they didn't have just one guy. So he was complimentary to 3 other backs that were getting paid less than him, and then he wasn't even making the biggest plays in the Super Bowl. Now, I will say I agree with this point about the booing is lame. I made that point last week. Although after this week, I'm surprised that it was all boos because half the stadium was dressed in purple. Like, I'm surprised you could even hear the boos with the amount of
You
Vikings
know,
fans in the stadium.
you know, the thing that we got to get off of is the fact that we don't have fans in the building. When you don't have product on the field, we have proven time and time again we're not going to show up. I mean, the 1-15 season, it was always the opposite teams who were filling up the stands. We're going to be 0-17 right now with the way we're looking, and it's going to be the same throughout the season. We have to get past that. We have to put product on the field that people want to come see. We can't get behind this team the way we want to because week in and week out, we get disappointed. They sold us this whole glorious package of what we were going to look like offensively. And since preseason, I believe if you go back to some of the tapes that we talked about in preseason, we look like a car crash. Now we look like a whole traffic pileup on 85. This isn't changing anytime soon. Reich is too prideful to understand or to even admit he is not the person that should be calling plays. I think there's a lot of disconnect, even with the players now not being bought into what Reich is selling. And that's a problem when you've got that going on as well. So the undermining of what the coach is trying to preach, I don't think the people are buying into inside that locker room. Thomas Brown, I believe he is being hamstrung by Frank Reich. I think Bryce Young is being hamstrung by Frank Reich. I think Deuce Staley, the backs that he's choosing to put in that personnel, he's being hamstrung by we need to make Miles Sanders the feature back. He's not the feature back, to your point, Shontis. Chuba Hubbard is our feature back. And behind him, I would put Laviska Shenault. I wouldn't even put Miles Sanders as number 2. I would put Miles Sanders as a number 3 option if you ask me. There's so many things that I don't understand why we're not putting Ian Thomas on that left side with Ike Ekwonu to help this man stop getting blown off the ball, to help blocking. I don't know why we haven't done that yet. It is boggling my mind why he's not in the game more to help Ike out. If we know Ike can't hold water. Ike hadn't been able to hold his side since preseason, and it's only gotten worse. Bryce, we can only fault him so much because he's coming into this kind of wide-eyed and bushy-tailed because he's always had success. This is his first taste of real adversity. His first taste of not being able to do what Bryce is normally able to do is kind of, wing it and get out there and do his thing. He's being hamstrung by that, and now he's even nervous. He's not even he's kind of trigger shy, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the duality of quarterbacks that we see time and time again where you get, it's the whole issue with the NFL, or not issue, but it's the characteristic of the NFL. The best guys are going to go to the worst teams, and they're going to look worse than they did in college because they're on the worst teams. And it's going to, but eventually, for more often than not, they're going to show those signs. We're seeing it. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is a big one. Wade on line. Even now, Baker Mayfield's having a resurgence of being able to actually play like a quarterback. Or then you look at Zach Wilson. He's doing it up against Patrick Mahomes with the chance to probably win that game if he gets the ball one more time. I believed him. I believe him when he said that. They probably would have won that game if he had it again. And that was one of those guys that, is touted he's supposed to be this guy, or like especially Jared Goff. Right. Different system, not where he's supposed to be now. Look at him on the Lions. He's carving up each and every week. So, no, I'm not putting it on Bryce. And the biggest thing that made, for me, like, I'm not putting this blame on him or making him the issue was after that interception or after that field goal. You saw how fired up he was about only scoring 3 points on the sideline. He had the entire room around him, and I was the most vocal I've seen him. They cut to him when he was on the sideline, and he was chewing people out, and not even in like a critical way. He was trying to hype everybody up. And that's what you need to see. You talk about Laviska. That's a big thing for me right now. Like, I don't understand why we still are not using him because, honestly, I don't understand how we're using any of our wide receivers. If I was a wide receiver on our team, I'd ask for a trade tomorrow because they're either not getting thrown to. Now, when they are, they're not doing anything with it. They're being sent to have to block half the time for a screen pass that does nothing to where, Miles Sanders or TMJ is falling down while they're trying to run it. I mean, you talk about the predictability of the plays. I've never, ever expected to or thought to run a bubble screen on the 5-yard line. That has never once in my mind said, that's the play I want to run right now.
It's really bad when we all feel the same thing. When I saw that play, I'm like,
like, what?
I said, thank God I sold that ticket. Because I'm telling you, had I been there in that stadium and had to see that, bro, I'm leaving. Because that makes no sense to anybody. I mean, I'm telling you, bro, everybody in the stands is able to predict what we're running. If that's the case, bro, you are long gone. And again, to Bryce not seeing that kind of confidence, that's tough, bro. Because I'll be honest, that's what we all thought we were gonna see. We all thought we were getting the most mentally prepared.
Yeah.
And and I like as far as processing all that goes, we thought we were getting the best quarterback on that front. To see him seem trigger shy. Yeah, I gotta look at the coaching staff and say, hey, look, bro, open this up. It's got to open
Yeah.
up. You got to trust. You got to
I
trust
mean,
your
if you
guys.
look at it,
Like I said, Laviska. To me, I thought Laviska added so much versatility to the offense, especially seeing what we lack as far as separation in terms of just our traditional route running. You got to go different way. You got to go different routes in different ways. And I thought the whole plan for him coming into this year was the right plan to go with. You know,
They talked about it in the presser, using him like Deebo Samuel, and we don't see that at all. And if you're gonna do a screen in the red zone, do an end around. Do a reverse. Do something to him. Like, he needs to be in the red zone more. He's one of your bigger guys.
your most successful screen passes were to Laviska.
Literally.
Yep. Like, I mean, now one that obviously got called back, but I'm like, bro, well, for first of all, it's not like we didn't have, like, this isn't the same guy that took like a screen 80 yards last year.
The first time he touched the ball.
Right. Like, no, that just didn't happen. That was a fever dream for us because, I mean, hell, we haven't seen it since. I don't understand what the refusal is to use a guy how he's supposed to be used. What's the hard part about it?
it's a prideful thing. It's a prideful thing.
Yeah.
But see, I don't even know about.
It's
I
a
don't even know
prideful
that,
thing.
JB.
It's a prideful thing. It's a prideful thing. What do you mean? I mean, listen, Frank Reich knows, and I know he's listened to every podcast, every outlet that has come out and criticized this team. Why have you not pivoted? That's a pride thing. That's an ego thing at some
And,
point,
well,
Jack.
it's interesting.
You're not doing what's best for the team. You're doing what's best
It's
for
interesting
you.
you say that because, I was very surprised, like, when they did, the blueprints and they do the cam confidentials and everything. He was very vocal and very outspoken. It was a change of pace from Matt Rule, who would not talk to, his own video department. He would begrudgingly talk to the media. He would not want to put himself out there, only on the podium, making him look like an idiot. And Frank Reich was very open about doing so. But I was wondering, it's easy to talk about your team in hypotheticals. It's easy to talk about it in the preseason, off-season, when nothing has happened. And I was wondering how he was going to do addressing things after losses. The preseason games, I, again, was like, all right, that's what I kind of expected. I thought that was going to, some of the vanilla stuff was interesting. But, like, the one that did it this week, and you got to remember, if you understand ball, you know that there's hot routes for certain players. But to openly mention that a play didn't work because it didn't go to the receiver that it was only supposed to go to, like, I know what a hot route is. We all know what hot routes are. But if you mean to tell me that you have specific plays and a variety of plays meant for just Adam Thielen, if you told me you had some just for Laviska Shenault, that's one thing.
Right.
Or just for, DJ Chark, that's another. But just for Adam Thielen, and then you're also mentioning that to where the entire NFL world can hear it, that you have play set up just for him, and that's why that route didn't work. So they only have to cover one freaking guy, and they can send 10 others. Like that, where I'm like, all right, you need to think about what you're saying now.
Well, I think he's trying to cover his tracks because he knows that he's calling a piss poor game. He has to know that. There's no way he's not. There's no way he's not. Yeah, he's got to understand that. I think, look, if you look at the stats, right? We lost because we didn't have enough rushing yards. We lost because we had fumbles for a return. We lost because we had more penalties for yardage, right? I mean, less penalties work for more yardage. End of the day, we are undisciplined on that side of the ball, bar none. We're showing no discipline. We're showing no cohesiveness. How can we even get into a rhythm when we can't get out of our own way a lot of the times? Go back to the Seattle game. We shot ourselves in the foot 1,900 times with all the penalties. Coming to the Vikings game, we're not playing up to our full potential because we can't get a rhythm because we're calling these vanilla plays that, I hate to say it, Providence could pick up on. Myers Park could pick up on. I mean, the defense, any defense that's halfway decent can pick up on. So at the end of the day, Frank Reich has got to get off of his pedestal, tuck tail. Let's give Thomas Brown 1 week. Let's see what he can do. You sit over there, you head coach, monitor your little microphone, and let Thomas Brown and the boys get to work and let them come out and let Bryce spin the way he should spin. If we see that and then there's still a problem, then there's a bigger conversation we need to have. But right now, we can only point the finger at Wright, Scott Fitterer, and of course the silent assassin, David Tepper. I've yet to see our owner come out and talk about what a calamity and chaos that he's created here in the Carolinas.
And another thing too, to that point, like you talk about the undisciplined, the undisciplinedness with the offense. And I mean, I think in general, that's the disappointing part for all the fans. Like when we brought in all of these years of NFL experience that we were being sold on, we were thinking that this is going to be a disciplined group. We wouldn't do things to hurt ourselves. And you look at a lot of the games that we've lost and how we've lost. Yeah, penalties in the red zone kill you, especially when you're a struggling team as is with a young quarterback. Also, I mean, simply not being able to protect, not being able
I said
to
the
stay
sacks
on,
killed you
to
more.
stay on assignments. Like, again,
Yep.
there's a reason why
Yep.
fans are upset, and more times than not, I'm like, we usually try to be on the side of. We usually try to put the neutral side and say, hey, look, we have to look at this from a perspective of like, hey, you got to be fair, got to be neutral with this, and say that, hey, look, maybe we expected a little too much. I don't think we had our expectations for the season as far as records go, but we know those things change quickly in the season, and we don't really trip off those too much anyway. The biggest thing I think we're all worried about is that like this doesn't look like a NFL team.
No,
this doesn't look like a unit. Like we were fine. Like I remember in 2011, I was perfectly fine with losing how we lost because we showed signs of life. Things look, and obviously the characters are different for Cam and for Bryce, but we're not. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good at all, and it doesn't feel like we're making any progress with the coaching staff and how they want to call the game. I started to see more of Bryce peek through later on in that game, throwing the ball over the middle, being able to create a little bit more extending plays. Like I started to see more of that. I started to feel more like himself again, but I'm still not seeing the play call match to where I'm seeing the quarterback display.
But that's what was more aggravating, and that's what's continued to be aggravating. You're going to losing a shootout. I'm fine. Cam, whenever he lost, especially in that first year, it was in shootouts. We talk about Green Bay, Arizona, those games. Those were, it was 42-35 every single game. In this one, it's really upsetting because, and it's not like, the last few weeks, JB, we've been talking the prevent defense was the only thing allowed. It was a close game there. And finally, in the fourth quarter, especially in those last few drives, they were looking like an actual offense. I'm like, where has this been the entire game? TMJ had a pass over the middle. DJ Chark had a catch over the middle. Adam Thielen had a catch over the middle. Hayden Hurst, they're all getting involved. Why are you waiting so long? Because it's been the same thing, and we talk about it, JB, every week. Run heavy first half to where you lull yourself into this sense. Then you try to start opening it up in the second half, but now they're just going to start blitzing because they know that they don't have to wait that long. So then all these sacks start piling up, and that's what killed you. Made it first and goal from the 10 to third and fourth and goal from the 25-26. So that's where I'm like, okay, you gotta you have to be desperate. Allow for things to go wrong. Because you're shooting yourself in the foot by being so conservative that you're the one who's making everything go wrong. And so you talk about Thomas Brown taking the reins. I don't think I want it to happen this week against the Lions. I wouldn't suggest it this week. Definitely wouldn't want. Because hold on, I say that because I think it would do well, and I think it would be a shootout. But I don't see very much hope for this Lions game we're talking about. I definitely don't want it for the Dolphins game because no matter how well he does. Thomas Brown's going to look bad compared to that offensive play calling. I think the perfect scenario and what you're going to see, whether or not I want it or not, or what I think is best. I'm thinking about what would at least be less disheartening. Allow for him to take over for the Texans game. Give him the bye week and then give him the Texans and a shorter week. Give him that week and a half to really get his playbook in place, his system in place. And then go out there against C.J. Stroud and the offense that's continuing to light it up and put up numbers in a shootout and beat out C.J. Stroud. That's if we're going to give Thomas Brown the reins, because I'm not he can call his little heart out against the Lions and the Dolphins. I don't know how much it's going to do. I really don't. If you want to give him a game where he can look like he's actually going to win as a play caller, then you do it against the Texans.
I'm going to disagree with that because I don't want to see Frank Wright to call another play this year. I don't care. I think moreover for me, I've seen enough, right? It's kind of like going to school and you see that same teacher, then you get a substitute. I like some substitutes every once in a while. And substitutes tend to make me want to be a student a little bit more every once in a while. So I disagree with that. I don't think I'm going to get out of Frank. If we go into Detroit the way we've looked these first 4 weeks, we're going to get a 50 burger put on our head. Easy. We're going to get a 50 burger. And the defense will probably score 25 points. I lie to you not.
Especially
so for me, I need a change.
Has he been cleared yet?
Yeah, I think he's back.
Okay.
I don't know. But we need a change, man. We need a change. We need something to give the offense some swag, some life. Because right now, we walk out on the field on the first series and our heads are already hanging because we know, here we go. We about to run this junior high school offense. You might as well go and do it. Whereas I would rather us come out with Thomas Brown being like, yo, let's just go all out. You know what? Let's go out and let's chuck it 30 off the rip. Let's go out. Let's throw LaVisca around the end around off the rip. We won in passing yards. We won in time of possession by 16 minutes last week. We won in third down conversions. None of that translated to a win. Why in the world did that not translate into a win? You know why? Vanilla offense. You know why? We're running a 1986 offense. You know why? Frank Reich's calling the plays. You know why? We have no cadence. We have no efficiency. I can go on and on and on about this, Jack. So I just disagree. We need a change, and we need to put some swag on the offense because the defense got the swag. Our offense needs to match that energy.
And to that point, Thomas Brown calling the plays, I think it buys you a lot more time with the fan base. If Thomas Brown is failing, than if Frank Reich is failing.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Now, I think the other thing may be, and it's something that somebody brought up on Twitter not too long ago, that maybe they want to hold back because they don't want to lose any of their assistants this quickly, and knowing that the compensation you get for having black assistants and black coaches and black
Tepper's looking at that.
I'm about to say, don't think he's not. This is a businessman at the end of the day. So he's definitely looking at that. But I think it buys you a lot of time with me to see. I'd rather see two young guys struggling to get it right than the young guy and the old guy. Like, not fam.
Yeah.
Like, let me see the you do it. And one, because I can just give one guy the boot and elevate the other and just call it that.
Exactly.
If it were to work.
Can I ask a question? Real quick though? Do y'all really think they're gonna stick around next year to go through this calamity all over again, even if they don't get to
not
spend?
With Frank, they won't.
No.
Like if they get to spend, they are. Avero's gone.
Yes.
Suck it up, Buttercup. He's gone. Thomas Brown may be gone just from a frustration standpoint. May not be that he has another job lined up. He could be like, you know what?
I see him doing it.
I just can't do
the
it.
enemy route, go from OC here to OC there, and just get a chance to actually
exactly.
Take it. That's my concern about it, and we talked about it. Is that the candidates of head coaches that would be coming out, and we continue to do this to ourselves. Like, I don't know how we continue to miss the years where there's the cream of the crop of who you could get, but I don't know where. Like, obviously there's going to be the grass is greener everywhere else, but I don't know where the greener grass lies. And we've seen separate things. I mean, there's certain coaching candidates that are declining interviews. We saw that. That's the biggest thing. DeMeco Ryans declined to talk to the Panthers, and it's very, very telling when something like that happens.
Well, that's because he knew he was going to Houston. He knew he was going to Houston.
I mean,
he knew he was going to Houston.
Played in Houston.
He knew he was going home. He knew he was going home.
He didn't decline talking to some. I mean, there were some other teams.
The guy, what's my man in Detroit? Ben Johnson. He didn't want to come because he was like, you know what? We got a good team. We got a good thing going. I want to see it through. I get that. The Lions have been irrelevant for 20 plus. Now they are a powerhouse in the NFC North with A-Rod being over in New York. So, yeah, I would want to see that through, too, if I was on that coaching staff, seeing where they came from and where they are now. I think the declining started coming because, honestly and truthfully, you look at an organization that had a coach in place that won that really brought your team out of the gutter, really put y'all in playoff contention, had the team buy in, and you choose not to go with him, that shows the sign of loyalty from owner to coach. So most people coming into that situation don't want to have that type of ownership over them. They would rather have somebody saying, you know what, we're going to stick it out with the guy who got us at least over the hump that we could see. Let's try to build on us getting over that hump. We haven't done any of that. We've stripped everything away, and we're trying to find our identity, which we have now.
Shift and add to that perspective as well. They didn't want to come in because they knew that locker room was not going to be around them because they were around Wilkes at the time. They knew that they were all riding for Wilkes because that was just in the interview process. Now we've doubled down and made it even worse because we've shown, we were not loyal to give that guy the job and the chance, and we're seeing what has happened in the meantime. But I just don't know where, you could do that bump up, bump everybody up, Thomas Brown's not going to get a head coaching gig here, but if you bump him up to, OC and then keep someone, or you keep him at OC and then have someone else be your senior, your assistant coach or something like that. I mean, because he wasn't even put in that position to begin with.
Naturally, Deuce Staley would be the next guy. Because he's the assistant head coach.
Exactly. So. And then he is. And then you could have, or even maybe Josh McCown in some regard, if you want to do it like that in terms of, offensive play calling, in terms of just having that kind of quality control kind of guy is what I'm saying.
I'm gonna keep it 100% honest. If you go, you talking about making Josh McCown go from QB coach to head?
No.
I thought
like assistant.
Oh, I thought he was saying,
no.
Shontis, thank you.
God, no, not almighty. Because that's the thing. There's no one in this coaching staff that I'm trying to, other than Avero,
Okay.
that I'm trying to give a head coaching gig.
Okay.
And it's funny because Avero, you talk about, we've given him a little bit more slack because our run defense is not what it's cracking up to be.
Well, there's a guy by Marquand McCall that I think we were all surprised that got cut.
I still don't even.
That was a run stopper. He was a true interior guy that you put in against in your run stopping packages.
There's other guys that we had that still got cut as well that were like, I don't understand why we are continuing to weed this part out because, like I said, Madison looked like a starting running back again. He looked like Dalvin. I kept thinking it was Dalvin Cook out there. I had to switch up. Like, that's not Dalvin Cook anymore. And I had to because it kept getting me.
Difference.
No, you couldn't.
You couldn't tell the difference because he was reeling off 8 yards a clip.
Exactly.
Like I mean, I don't know. Are Deshaun Wood is Tuttle and Williams small? Are they small like interior guys? Or were we?
Tuttle was a little smaller. Williams is not. But where is he? He's not.
Oh, he's getting put. Oh, he's back there with my linebacker. He's back there kicking it with Kamu and all them boys. Like, yes, that's where he's at. I'm telling you. I'm watching them boys get continuously blown off the ball. There's no penetration. There's no slicing through the line. Like, there's none of that. Like, and I think the lack of maybe not having the linebacker that is traditionally good at that, other than Shaq. Shaq is like the only backer I thought we had that could read and react and get the play, go make the play in the backfield. Luvu's not naturally that, that stand up backer that plays the run.
Luvu's making plays because he's not supposed to be making plays.
Right. Kamu is more of that guy, but I mean, he's just not of the tier of some of the other guys that we've had in the past. So it's like, they're solid, but they're not.
I will say for Avero, though, and we didn't have the chance to talk about it. I had my qualms with him here. We talked about the rotation, the personnel. Mm-hmm. You were so gung-ho on a guy to where you had your GM, you convinced your GM to trade up to draft him, and you mean to tell me he's a healthy scratch because there are just guys that are on the field that are better than him, and we don't need him because our depth is so... Make a package for him. Throw him into the rotation. If you think that DJ Johnson is this good, he's not a quarterback you have to wait in the wings to for the veteran quarterback to teach him until he goes down, then the rookie can step in. It's a defensive end. You run them rotationally.
Go play.
Especially with Marquise Haynes being out. Especially with Brian Burns getting to switch when you have this new 3-4-2. If it was a 4-3, that's one thing. But you're running a 3-4 for this specific reason, and you're not running guys like Amari Barno. You're not running guys like these different players that that balled out in preseason. So I don't understand how you can competently healthy scratch a player because we don't need to use him because we have the depth. When you trade it up and we're missing out on these other guys like a Darnell Washington that we could have drafted instead of because we got this guy instead.
We could have definitely used Darnell Washington instead of Ian Thomas.
I think one thing we're seeing is too on that defensive side of the ball too. I mean, the injuries have decimated a lot of what we really need to have out there. I think we are downplaying. I mean, I was very critical of Shaq, but we really miss his leadership in those tough moments when they're running up the gut and we're getting tormented. Shaq will come through and make 2 or 3 good plays and get them back on track. We're missing that piece. Luvu not being on the field. We're missing those guys. So I think the defensive side of the ball is doing the best of what they can with what we have. But you know what? They're the reason why we're in the game.
Yeah.
So hats off goes to all of them on that side of the ball. We may get run through from time to time, but for the most part, they're keeping us in the game. They're keeping us, relevant as far as keeping the offense, the opposing offense is honest to a certain extent until they want to throw deep. And you know how that goes for me. They pick on one side of the ball. I'm going to rest my case on that. But I just think overall, our defense is going to be the one that's going to at least get us a win. It won't be an offensive play. But I'm here to tell you, Chicago going to have 1 and 2 this year because of us.
Look, it looks like they need.
We're not. I don't see us winning. If we win any game, it's probably going to be the Chicago game.
Yeah, that would be at worst.
That's how I feel.
At the very worst.
That's all I mean, I'm going to be 100% honest. I went from us going 8-8 to 1-16.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Not going to lie. Well, how that offense looked, it's unsustainable to play this way for a full season. But I guess I will.
Exactly.
I will ask you this, though, because your boy didn't finish the game. Deshaun Jameson comes in. I want to know what you felt about him. Like, what did you see? Did you see anything from him that you liked? Did you even notice he was on the field? Like, what was that? How did that go?
Honestly, for me, I really didn't get a chance to get a full look at the game. I didn't really see much of it. I would tell you, nothing to me in this game this past Sunday really, once I started looking at some of the highlights and looking at some of the replays that I saw, none of it showed me nobody on the field really stood out. Brian Burns didn't stand out to me. You know what I mean? Hayden Hurst didn't stand out to me. Laviska Shenault didn't get a chance to stand out to me. Terrace Marshall, that's a whole nother conversation. We're going to have to go offline because there's a lot of four-letter words I want to use to describe what I think about that whole performance, right? Ian Thomas, fumble hands, Flair Flintstone himself. Don't know why they were throwing to him. So, and where in the world is Tommy Tremble? Could somebody talk to me about Tommy Tremble? Is he trembling in his boots somewhere? Hadn't heard his name all season.
Preseason, and I thought maybe we would see more of that. And I think,
right,
as an athlete,
but where is he now, Shontis?
Here's the thing: as an athlete,
where is he now?
He's a better athlete than Ian Thomas.
Yep.
I would think he's a better. Maybe don't think he's a better blocker, but he's definitely more of a versatile blocker that I could use at least in a fullback role or something. Like I can do something more with Tommy Tremble than I can with Ian. Like I can't understand why I'm not seeing Tommy Tremble get any type of action and no type of burn and chances to make plays as a receiver.
The thing that makes Tommy Tremble more aggravating for me is that he was pitched, especially during the draft and afterwards, as this kind of guy that could do the same stuff that we're seeing Taysom Hill doing in New Orleans. He was supposed to be this kind of Swiss Army knife that could block, that could run, that could, stand up, maybe even throw it a little bit because he did that in high school and he even did that a little bit. Now he's Rudy on the field. Like, there's no reason for him to be on the field, and I don't understand why he is when he is on the field. I don't understand why he's not when he's not on the field. Like, that's the whole I don't understand it, and that's how a lot of our players go. You talk about people that aren't standing out. The only player that has consistently stood out week in and week out, and it's killing me to say,
YGM.
I don't understand. He's the only one that has consistently played well, and whether it's just a vulture that's kind of carving in on the chaos of what's going on. He's the only one that's got pressure every week.
He's popped.
I think he's had a sack. Every week.
Bro, here's the thing. The one pressure that you got against Kirk Cousins.
He's had pressure every week for sure.
He had the half sack with Brian Burns this past week.
Right. But the interception, the second interception, that was all him.
That was all, literally, that was only him. And then he had the sack. I know he had the sack the week before him. The same kind of Brian Burns, which I don't know why we don't run that play more if it consistently continues to work. I will say I did like, I don't know what it is about the Vikings, but Jeremy Chin actually did show signs of being an impactful football player.
For some reason.
He loves the Vikings. I don't know why. We saw, and I don't know why we haven't seen him more. That blitz, he was untouched. Mm-hmm. There was not a single person on him. He came in flying faster than DJ Reed did to Patrick Mahomes.
I think if you could get your defense in more favorable passing situations, you could see more of Jeremy Chan. He played the middle. He was playing the middle backer at that.
He had some good coverage plays too. He had that pass breakup.
Like I want to see if we can get our defense in more favorable passing situations where I can see YGM in the interior. I can see Jeremy Chan playing like a middle backer type of role, blitzing and blitzing off the side of Derrick Brown. We can see more of that. I think we would be okay. But I think they made some mistakes with the interior that to this point, bro, every team that we play in the second half, you're seeing they're going to run it.
I'll tell you what, Shontis, though, I hate to tell you, we're not going to see any more favorable pass situations within the next 2 weeks. We're going to see probably the least favorable situations we've seen this far into the season with the Lions and the Dolphins. Like I said, we thought that 70 burger was bad. I'm
petrified.
I don't even want to, if Dante doesn't play, or if Dante does play, honestly, at this point, I'm not even
saying.
Wait a minute. You said who? I was about to say.
I'm talking about bodies on the field at this point. My God, we're going down to really the UDFAs and the practice squad just to get defensive backs on the field.
I won't say what I was about to say because I'm trying to be more respectful towards players and stuff.
Listen. We're not talking about my man. I told you we're on good terms this year. This year. But I'm going to tell you, I told you so. I told you so.
Who was arguing with you?
I told you so. I do want to. I do want to say this though. I think I do want to say this though. No, all jokes aside, we do have a rough patch coming up with on the back end of this the Texans coming into the house, and I fear CJ gonna show up, and he gonna show you why we should have drafted him, and it's gonna be real ugly if that goes down the way I think it's gonna go down on the night we retire Julius Peppers jersey and put him up in the rafters. It's gonna be real ugly if that comes to fruition because, again, Jack, I'm going back to my statement. We can't have Frank Wright calling that game.
No.
Frank Wright versus D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans wins.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Wright.
I promise you.
Like I said, that is that's the Dolphins and the Lions. I mean, he shouldn't be calling any of these games, but he shouldn't be calling the Texans game. He's gonna call the Colts game. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That's gonna happen. If he's going to, and that's another revenge game because Anthony Richardson's going to be on the same kind of pedigree of y'all should have drafted me, and now he's looking like a Cam clone where he is. The Bears game is going to be another revenge game because DJ Moore is going to be like real. I mean, that's going to be the one game he'll actually have 100 yards.
Oh, DJ.
You thought Steve Smith and the Ravens was bad.
See right now, DJ gonna bring that thigh out to them boy. I ain't gonna lie. If he get one on one with CJ Henderson,
yeah.
He knows exactly what the weak points on these guys' bodies are. He's going to run right through them.
He's going to eat Dante up. He's going to eat Dante up. He's going to eat CJ up. He's going to eat that whole secondary up. But for me, I think, it is just so sad to hear us already conceding the fact. I don't see us winning more than 5 games. I don't even see us winning 3. That's how bad I think our season is going to go.
5. I ain't gonna lie, I'd probably be happy, bro.
I'm looking at this.
Yeah, me too. We get to 5. Me too.
I was thinking, at one point the Titans was a lock. I mean, either the Bengals are just that bad, or the Titans are actually able to put up points.
No game's a lock.
No, there's not.
No game's a lock.
They're really, you thought the Buccaneers game was going to be a lock. That's for sure not a lock.
No.
I mean.
Oh, Baker is going to try to eat us alive.
Put you in the dirt. I ain't gonna lie. There's a lot of games. We pissed a lot of people off. It's all
we
right.
really
pissed a lot of folks off the last few years.
We made a lot of people angry.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's about 5 games where I'm like, damn, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it. Like,
yeah.
The Cowboys is gonna be just an evisceration. The Packers, we thought that was at least gonna be a gimme game.
Jordan Love
ain't no way.
That kid look good too.
And then the Jaguars, I mean, my God, like
Trevor Lawrence gonna throw for 300 yards on us,
and remind us why they let DJ Chark walk. Like that's gonna be the biggest thing. I mean, it's not a complacency thing. It's just like this is the only way I can cope right now. It really is. It's the only way I can go into this. And I'm honestly like, and we talked about this earlier, and this has been the big stipulation on Twitter for the longest time, or the last few weeks, is that there's a segment of people, both media and fans, that say that the fans need to be more patient, that they shouldn't have had these expectations so early on. Right. Then there's rest of them that say, why would you not? Like, the team put themselves in this position. They could have come out here and said, you know what? We've got a new coaching staff. We've got all new players on offense. We've got a new rookie quarterback. It's going to take some time. Not 7 years, but it's going to take a few weeks to get things going.
Hey, look, man. All we cared about was this team really looking the part.
Yeah.
Like, we know how it goes. Like, we had a rookie quarterback that we saw one of the greatest rookie quarterback seasons you could ever see, and still only won 6 games.
Yeah.
So we know the wins are gonna be hard to come by, but we want it to look like we belong out there, and that's the biggest issue. I think nobody's wrong for feeling that this has been a disappointment thus far. I mean, I've even seen the most neutral of people, the most level-headed people start to get irritated by what they've seen by Frank Reich and his offense so far, and by this team in general. Look.
This is how bad it is. We get no coverage on any national media outlet. Oh, Carolina Panthers lost to the Vikings. That's all you get.
Yeah.
That's it. Nobody talks about us. Nobody gives us the time of day. And to both of your points, my biggest gripe with this team falls with the fact we do not look like a football team. We look disjointed. We look mediocre. We look like, we just put this playbook together last Sunday. I went back to college in 1967, and I put together these 15 plays. That's what we look like. And it is the most disheartening thing. At least when we had Wilkes in there, we played efficient, hard-nosed football, and we looked like a
There was a
team.
level of
Right
physicality there
now,
that you had to respect.
yes,
You
yes,
had to respect. And the
yes,
play,
Shontis, there you go.
Bryce Young gets knocked down, the penalty to a Terrace Marshall, I think, jump, and he
Oh
gets
yeah,
knocked
yeah.
down.
And nobody does anything.
Not a soul move. I mean, they coming up to him, they over going to tell, they trying to go tattle to the ref. Hey, fam, put belt the asses, man. Hey, fam, what we
Torrey
put
Smith
hands on somebody. Bro.
Torrey Smith was getting in fistfights 4 weeks into being a Panther for a team that he had played against multiple times because Cam got laid out. And Torrey Smith was the first one to throw a punch. He'd been on the team 4 weeks. We don't have anyone. I mean, Justin Herbert, they cleared the bench for him. The entire sideline came out to defend Justin Herbert.
Fam, it's certain times that you have to just be like, you have to put the rules and all that to the side and be like, bro, be a man, be a football player. We know what that means. You gotta just be willing to just be physical, no matter the circumstance. You gotta set a tone, and the tone's not being set by anybody. I think Wilkes did it for a team that I don't think had a personality in the locker room that could do it for them. I think Wilkes brought that for that group, and you saw them play with that. Frank is too ho hum and so. It's so godly. It's like watching Eli Manning. Like remember like the Eli Manning pressers. It's like watching. It's like dealing with that in a coach form. And there's nothing about it that gives me any type of sizzle or anything in my spirit, but to make me want to play, go out and give great effort.
That's what we said when he was getting. I was like, he's a saltine cracker. Like I don't understand what as a coach he brings to the table to motivate these guys. Like he talks the talk in terms of the technical side of it, but now he's not even doing that. So I don't, when you have, like you said, that was the biggest issue. When you go from this, you have Wilkes, who's got all of this going for him, and he has built this team around him and been able to build this culture. And I see where Tepper faltered in terms of looking at the return on investment that Frank was bringing in. That's really what got him the job. We keep talking about it. The return on investment that Frank was bringing in with the coaching staff that he was bringing around. Wilkes, I can imagine, I would concede, might not have had the entire plan in place. But I would be willing to wait longer. Like we've all been saying, I would have waited longer for Steve Wilkes. If this was Steve Wilkes and we were 0-4, I would be more accepting.
Yes.
Because Steve Wilkes has had less experience as a head coach. He would have had the same amount of time to put a staff together, but he definitely would not have compiled the same staff.
It wouldn't have been the name. It wouldn't be as name driven as we saw with this current.
But that might be. I mean, that is another reason why the fans had the expectations they did. You hired 3 of your head coaching candidates to be on your staff. That should bode well for how this team is at least supposed to look and is supposed to at least be able to present themselves. If you have 3 guys that you interview to be your head coaches that are still on your staff, like that's unprecedented. And then you bring these other, like you've got your McVay coaching tree, you've got journeyman McCown, you've got a guy whose son is in the NFL and he's breathed and he's lives the NFL, and then the defensive side of the ball, you have former players all coming out of the woodwork to be a part of this team. Even former players of the Panthers coming out of training camp. If they'd stayed away and waited for a big product, like they have a part to play in the blame too. You got Kuechly flying up to Seattle to watch it and to watch that crap.
Hey, I'm gonna keep it hot.
Steve Smith did his due.
I would say
look
this,
at Steve Smith. I'm starting to question, not question his judgment, but I'm really hoping Mingo plays out.
Maybe, those who play probably shouldn't coach. Cause that's why we see the other guys that just like that never played a snap.
Well, Shontis.
Because bro, Steve Smith
Shontis,
missed a couple times.
Sure. Listen. In the words of Deion Sanders, there's some dogs and there's some leaders, and right now we got neither. And we got to get back to finding a dog and a leader, and somewhere on that offensive side of the ball, and we got to be able to try to. I hate to say it, we're going to have to overthrow Wright, and, Bryce is going to have to just do what Bryce does and figure it out because Reich is going to get him killed. Reich is going to make this offense rank 32 out of 32. And we're not, as long as we play the way that we've been playing, and we keep talking about we're going to look at tape and he feels like he's the best person to call plays, we're going to be at the bottom of the food chain. And we're going to have people step up and really start just being those dogs out there. Mingo needs to come back off of this concussion protocol and hope he comes out with a fire in his belly. I think Chuba Hubbard, if the Panthers organization is listening right now, Chuba Hubbard needs more touches. Laviska Shenault needs more touches. Yeah. Hayden Hurst needs to get the ball. And by all things under God, please take Ian Thomas. place him right next to Icky for at least the first 2 series and see what sort of success we get with a running game or some passing. If that works, thank us. Thank P1 Network for giving you your new game plan. And please let Thomas Brown call at least 2 series, just so we can see what he can do besides Frank Wright. Those are just my charges to the team.
Point, and we can talk about the Detroit Lions game as we wrap up. But at this point, I'm just looking for justification over your decision making. I'm looking for validation as to what you did. You talk about it. We have 5 tight ends on the roster. Show me why we have 5 tight ends on the roster, and not a single one of them actually have an impact. Show me why that happened. You had Hayden Hurst was your first pickup. Show me why Hayden Hurst was your first pickup. Mm-hmm. You hire Frank Reich. Show me why you hire Frank Reich. Frank, you hire all these guys. Show me why. You picked Bryce Young. Conspiracy aside, I don't even want to touch on it because I think that's ridiculous for people to think that a grown man would do that to another grown man and draft him and then try to run him into the ground because it wasn't the guy that he wanted. I believe he did one Derek Carr, and that was kind of vetoed. I don't doubt that happened.
I'm glad it was because clearly this man's decision making isn't great.
No, it's not. So I'm glad about that. But the saying that he wanted C.J. Stroud, obviously there was miscommunication, and there was a argument in the room because I believe they didn't know who they were going to pick until the day of or the week of. I truly do believe that.
I think it was definitely that week of that we all kind of got the sense that, we know it's going to be Bryce at this point. But up until that point, we were very much all thinking that Stroud was very much in the mix of that. So,
I mean, people would ask, like, up until the name was called, I would not have been surprised either way if it was Stroud or Bryce Young. It was a complete 50 shot. But anyway, give me justification as to why you drafted him, why you have him. Give me justification for the free agents that you've added, for the guys that you've brought onto this team, and for the things that you have said and the position you put yourself in. Give me that validation that you believe what you said, you can carry out what you said you were going to carry out, and just look, like you said, like a football team. I don't want to continue to look at this and watch and go, I am surprised we're succeeding. I'm surprised we're putting up points. It's getting to the point where I'm surprised that we're putting up points. And we still did not put up.
Yeah. Oh. No, go ahead. Finish up, Jack. I got something I got to say.
You talked about it. The 7 of the 14 points 13 points we scored were on the defense. We did not score a touchdown on offense. And I'm getting so sick and tired of not being able to score a single touchdown. At this point, stop kicking field goals. Take the extra down. And if you don't get it, I would be happier with that because you at least tried to put up a touchdown effort. And instead of just getting, keeping us in the game, quote unquote, with these just dink and dunk field goals. The one in the, end of the first half, I understood that one.
Right.
50. I mean, that was a great position. I would have liked a touchdown off the turnover, but 56-yarded, that's great. Just show me why you're here and show me why we should come out to watch these games.
Yeah. Just for sake of argument, y'all see how Sam Howell's playing, right? I'm going to leave that out there for you.
I'm not talking about the command.
I'm just going to leave that.
I really don't.
I'm just going to leave that. Sam Howell wasn't playing like that when they didn't have this new offensive coordinator. I'm just going to throw that out there to you.
The defense wasn't playing like that.
He was.
Look, the Commanders were holding their own against the Eagles, and they had the chance there at the end. I wish they would have secured it, but I'm like, the Commanders are showing. It's like how the Bills the last few years I wouldn't want to talk about the Bills because they were showing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and they were doing it right. Now, even somehow Rivera, I love him to death, but he should. There's no way that man should be a head coach anymore at this point.
But I know what he's getting at.
I know what he is too. Is that it's all because of who we let out the door and who's going over there now. But it's showing us that was the whole thing with Heineke. It was showing Heineke could do it even before Bieniemy got in the door, and we were still going with the guys we had. The Commanders are now the new team to show me that they have been the team of mediocrity forever. And they're 1 year into a new. You're not even into the new ownership yet, or trying to figure all that out. And they're still looking. They look more like a football team than the Panthers do. Thank God we don't play them this season.
I think David Tepper means
yes.
But good God, this is not good. But to end off with some actual football talk about the Lions, I just want to see. Like I said, I want to see more of our weapons being used over the middle. Like I said, I thought you found something late in that game against Minnesota that you gotta let Bryce work the middle of the field. You gotta trust him to work the middle of the field, and you gotta trust Chark has got to get a shot early.
He does.
That has to happen in order to loosen up this defense. At least make somebody have to believe that that's a part of our offense we are willing to use. I could talk about all the versatility that we could use with Visca Visca has to be on the field.
He does.
There has to be a semblance of him on the field to give a change of pace to what defense has to defend. And just put an emphasis on getting your offensive guys, the guys that you signed, get those guys going. Like you said, justify what you did. Justify all the moves that you made. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I'm looking for this week as well. I think you said it perfectly.
I think that Bryce Young, like you just touched on, I think Bryce Young can be Carmelo Anthony for midfield. Like that's what he's shown at Alabama. He can carve up. He knows how to work that midfield. Let him get his mid-range in. Bring in, if Mingo's out of concussion protocol, he needs to get a touch early too.
Yeah.
Because you brought him in for a reason. Show us why. Even TMJ, if it's a short post, something like that, get these guys early. If you start off the game throwing straight to Adam Thielen, I'm gonna have issues. If you start the game, if you start one more drive with a halfback read up the middle to get 3 yards, I'm sorry. I know you can run that every play and get 9 yards if it works, but I don't care anymore. I don't want to see it. Miles Sanders, we did not bring him in to be a running up the middle back. That was not his forte. That was not what we want from him. So stop it, please. So for me, and for the defense, I do need to see some run. I need to see a complete game of run defense. I know you get gassed, and we're so weeded down on our defensive personnel because of injuries. But I gotta see it to hold its own, especially for the guys that we're going to be going up against.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with both of your points. I think just to add on, the offense has to show more than what they've given, and that's just the bottom line across the board. Offensive linemen, concept, scheme, play calling, the whole nine. We just need a whole overhaul. We'd love to see Thomas Brown call the game. This is my wish. I'm gonna talk to Santa Claus tonight and see if he can give me my gift early. And then on the defensive side of the ball, to your point, Jack, yeah, we do need to see some run stop, but please, by all means, do not let Amon-Ra eat Dante Jackson alive all day. I just don't want to see that all day. Let's really try to put some clamps down on those deep balls if we can. And let's just look like a football team. Play competitive football. Dan Campbell's coming in like he always comes in fired up. So that's what you're going to have to deal with that team. That team is brought in as a cohesive unit from top to bottom. And so to beat them, it's going to take us to be a cohesive unit for one game, top to bottom. And that's all I really want to see.
I agree. I just want to see keeping their guys down, having our weapons be successful. The Sun God, the Gambler, and David Montgomery is going to – if we make Montgomery look like more like a Pro Bowl running back, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick. But that is what it is.
Hey, Jack, what size barf bag do you need for Sunday? What size barf bag do you need for Sunday? I'm going to send it to you now. I'm looking on Amazon now. You want it in Panther Blue or Panther Black? Because I can send you your barf bag now.
I think I'd like it in Panther Black, the way it hides at least the stains. That's what they tell you. That's the Deadpool joke. You wear red so you don't see the blood. That's it. I want it to be puke green so you ain't going to see it. I mean, it's going to be brutal. And I have, and that's been the worst part, is having my friends that I have met throughout the years that are fans of all these different teams. And it's just the constant, we got you this week. We got you this week. It's a week off. So I just want to see just some semblance of knowing what we're doing. But, of course, until then, keep pounding.